The 3 R's, 3 riots, 3 revolts, and 3 revolutions.
By Jenna, Riley, Murphy, Rachel, and Natalia.
The spirit of Excuse. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Excuse the metronome and the laughter. The spirit of revolution is contagious. That is, after all, how revolutions begin. Revolutionaries, great thinkers and speakers, inspire the people around them to fight for a change they believe in. However, revolutions are not only inspired by great thinkers and speakers of the time, but also by previous revolutions. The ideas that those revolutions brought to the table are borrowed, built upon, and used again. Beginning in 1215 with the Magna Carta, we can trace its influence throughout history, tying together 3 major revolutions: the Glorious Revolution, the American Revolution, and the French Revolution. At the start of the Glorious Revolution, the Petition of Right was written in 1628. It resurfaced many of the ideas from the Magna Carta. Then John Locke wrote his 2 treatises of government in 1689, adding to the ideas in the Petition of Right. Then, as the culmination of the Revolution, the English Bill of Rights was written in 1689. Next came the U.S. Constitution, which outlined the newly independent U.S. government, and which borrowed many of its ideas from the English Bill of Rights. This inspired the French and the document that was the basis of the Revolution, the Declaration of the Rights of the Man and the Citizen, written in 1789. And in 1791, Thomas Paine wrote the similarly titled Rights of Man, adding to the French Revolution and building upon the Declaration.
The Magna Carta, written in June 1215 by the Barons of England, was one of the first documents written that limited the power of a monarch and vilified tyranny. After crafting the document, it is said that in a field in Runnymede, the document was presented to King John, and he was forced to sign it. It aimed to protect against taxation without representation and billeting of troops, and also outlined the people's rights to justice and fair trial. In the first place, we have granted to God, and by this our present charter confirmed for us and our heirs forever, that the English Church shall be free and shall have her rights entire and her liberties inviolate. Although King John did sign it on that day in Runnymede, Pope Innocent III nullified it shortly after, and it was ignored.
King Charles had a rocky relationship with Parliament from the start. Parliament was mostly Puritans and thought that the Church of England was too Catholic. The Petition of Right was written by Parliament. It limited the power of the king and advocated for natural rights, just as the Magna Carta did. Now let's watch as the Petition of Right came to fruition.
Men, I stand before you today to ask for your support in my endeavors to send troops to aid France in their battles.
We will give you the support you need, but only if you agree to our conditions and sign this petition of right we have placed before you.
You dare question my right to power? I was chosen by God himself! And you wish to deny God his will.
The will of God is not the problem here. The problem is your blatant disregard for natural rights. If you refuse to give up absolute power, then force may be needed.
I'm aghast at this blasphemy. You say you commons have the same natural rights as me? There is a clear distinction between a king and his subjects. What do you expect to gain from this?
That the subjects may have no just cause of complaint for any wrong or oppression.
What do you have to complain about? I'm simply asking for funds to help our allies.
If you wish to get your money, then you must listen to our request and sign the document now.
Fine! But you must provide me with all of the money I need and the support I request. These damned blasphemers think they can control me? I'll be damned if I allow them to deny me my power. I may have signed that petition, but I swear I will not follow their orders. This petition is nothing but paper soiled by traitors.
You realize he has dismissed us and is now going back to his old ways with a complete disregard for the petition?
Yes, and like I said before, if he does not comply with our request, then more forceful actions must be taken.
The king violated the Petition of Right by taxing people directly and used the Church of England to spy on people in the community. The people's hatred for the king led to the start of the English Civil War between Parliament and the king's forces. Ultimately, parliamentary forces won, and Charles was charged with treason, being a public enemy, and a murderer. He was beheaded in public, and Parliament took over the government.
John Locke was a political philosopher in the 1600s and wrote mostly on natural rights and contract theory. He detested the idea of divine rights of kings and believed that a true leader was supported by his people.
A king chosen by God? Ha! I laugh at the idea of such a baseless thing. Government is not controlled by God's messenger. It is controlled by the people. Only the people can give the government legitimacy, and in return the government protects the people and their rights. Yes, the rights we are all granted by God when we are born are natural rights.
Then what is man's natural state?
That is a state of perfect freedom, of acting and disposing of their own possessions and persons as they see fit within the bounds of the law of nature.
Then who shall govern if not for the emissaries of God?
The people. The government supported by the people. If that be monarchy or republic, it won't matter as long as the people approve.
And what of tyrants?
Those who rule for themselves shall never get the approval of the people and are therefore illegitimate.
But what of the people who believe in the divine right of kings?
It is their right to believe, just as it is my right to detest. Nature gives us the ability to decide.
Then what of the world's tyrants?
The day will come in the future when I will inspire those who will rise above tyranny and rebellion. A new government shall be formed, and they will be based on the opinion of the people and the belief in natural right and contract theory.
Even though his work was printed after King James II was overthrown, it had large impacts on revolutions and was used by many authors to spark the idea of revolution. His work never directly affected the Glorious Revolution. After King Charles was beheaded, Parliament took control of the government and it didn't work, so they voted to restore monarchy and invited Charles II to be king. Charles died and James II was crowned. James was Catholic and nobody liked him. He was ultimately forced to flee the country. Then they invited Mary II and William of Orange to rule as joint monarchs.
Before you can rule, you have to sign the English Bill of Rights so we know you will not abuse your royal power. We used a lot of ideas from John Locke's 2 treatises of government. His ideas that all men are created equal led us to including freedom of speech, the right to bear arms, and the freedom to petition the monarch in this document.
Okay. Aren't you glad I didn't say no?
Before I was here, the king could change whatever he wanted for no reason. He could increase taxes and dismiss parliament. He could outlaw oranges if he wanted. I limit the powers of the king. Now that I'm here, Parliament has to agree on any new taxes, and the monarch can't interfere with the election of Parliament. I separate the powers between Parliament and the king so that no one group or person can do major changes without the consent of the others.
The English Bill of Rights marked the end of the Revolution, but like always, the calm did not last.
When the English set colonies in Northern America, there was supposed to be a mutually beneficial relationship between us and England. But England made us pay taxes without letting us be represented in Parliament. So we all dressed up and dumped a bunch of tea in Boston Harbor. Then there was this big war thing, and in the end, America won.
America.
At the end of the Revolution, in 1787, our leaders wrote the United States Constitution. The Constitution described the 3 branches of government: Congress, executive, and judiciary. The good things about the English political system were repeated in the US, such as the separation of powers, using checks and balances to make sure that no one branch of government was given too much power.
I am the U.S. Constitution, and according to me, all free men have the freedom of speech, will not be punished in cruel and unusual ways, won't be charged excessive bail, and have the right to bear arms. These were all inspired by the English Bill of Rights.
The main idea of the Constitution is that everybody is equal and has the same rights as everybody else. Which is weird, because, they had slaves.
King Louis XVI had committed 2 billion livres to the American Revolution, leaving France nearly bankrupt. This caused an inflation in the price of bread, the main source of food in France, and eventually led to a riot.
We represent the people, and we want to discuss the financial crisis and how it is affecting the commoners. But the other 2 estates have locked us out.
Then they went to a tennis court.
Whoa, slow down. This is a handball court.
They went to a tennis court.
Handball.
Excuse me? I think I'm telling this story. Tennis court.
Alright, I'm over it. Anyways, we should make an oath that we will not stop meeting until the new constitution is made. And since we are at a tennis court, we can call it the Tennis Court Oath.
And so the Declaration of the Rights of Man and the Citizen was drafted.
The representatives of the French people organized as a national assembly, believing that ignorance, neglect, or contempt of the right of man, the sole cause of public calamities and corruption of governments, have determined to set forth in a solemn declaration the natural inalienable and sacred rights of man.
In the Declaration of the Rights of Man and the Citizen, the separation of powers defined in the United States Constitution is brought up again. And because Thomas Jefferson wrote the United States Constitution and helped in writing the Declaration, there are other similarities as well. The U.S. Constitution is a draft of the new government in the United States. Similarly, the Declaration of the Rights of Man and the Citizen is a new constitution for the French in which they give rights to the people that they did not have before. Although many people were given new rights, the majority of the people were not. The only people given these rights were active citizens. Frenchmen who were at least 25 years old, paid taxes equal to 3 days' work, and weren't servants. The general idea of the articles were that every man is born equal in rights, and that the laws ultimately decide everything equally, good or bad. The Declaration of the Rights of the Man and Citizens sparked a revolution.
The Rights of Man, written in 1791 and 1792, was a book written by Thomas Paine stating, well, the rights of man. It was written before the Reign of Terror, which was a period of violence that occurred after the French Revolution.
In the Rights of Man, I state that all men are born with rights which cannot be taken away.
This is also said in the Declaration of Rights of Man and the Citizen.
I wrote about the French Revolution and how it is the act of tearing down the totalitarian ideals of the French monarchy rather than the king himself.
This is exactly what is done in the Declaration of Rights of Man and the Citizen.
The Rights of Man focus point is that rights cannot be granted via political charter because that implies that these rights can be legally taken away as well. So because this would be an injustice, the people must join a contract with each other, and this is how the government can exist.
The 3 revolutions we discussed are over, but coming with future revolutions is the 4th R, repeat.